Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang. Chapter 1901. She truly had not even thought of recording. Ivy shook her head. No, I don't have anything, I just heard with my own ears. Another dead end. After a moment of silence, Shawn said, What else did you hear about Orem and Gale? Did Orem really do something to Gale? I've told you everything I heard because Paul asked him, even asked if he had actually slept with Gale, but Orem didn't admit he did. From what you heard at that time, do you think Orem really harmed her? Ivy tried hard to recall. She racked her mind and raced through the conversation between Orem and Paul, thinking about their tones in the conversation. From what I heard, Paul and I arrived at the hotel first, and Orem and Gale came later. Orem seemed very regretful. When Paul asked if he had achieved his goal, he got angry. A person who successfully executes a plan, who completely achieved their goal, should feel proud and pleased when asked by their subordinate. Logically, if they had controlled the situation, planned everything and executed it well, they would feel accomplished and invincible because no one caught them. Orem clearly got angry, so I feel like he didn't succeed, but due to pride and other reasons he had to say he did. Shawn's lips curled slightly. He had thought the same before. Now Ivy was confirming this. Gale was still pure. He just knew things had not reached that terrible point. How could Orem succeed so smoothly? Shawn was not weak. Even without being on guard, he would not let Orem succeed in one go. Yes, I think Orem cares about his reputation and wouldn't admit in front of Paul that he didn't get Gale. He is even trying to convince himself that he did. Unfortunately, Orem could deceive himself, could deceive Gale, could deceive his allies, but he could not deceive Shawn. Mr. Wood, based on this conversation I accidentally overheard, not only can we conclude that Orem didn't harm Gale, but we can also be certain that the mastermind behind this scheme is Orem. Right now, Ivy's biggest wish was to tear off Orem's mask and expose his ugliness to everyone, especially to Gale. Gale had always trusted Orem and never said a bad word about him in front of her. Yet, it was Orem who caused all this. Orem clearly liked Gale, right? If you like someone, should not you cherish, protect and guard them? How could he want to destroy her originally peaceful and happy life? Ivy could not understand. She was someone who was originally uninvolved and had been drawn into this. I know it's him. I've always been sure it's him, but, before you heard this conversation between Orem and Paul, if I told you it was Orem, would you believe it? Shawn replied. I wouldn't, because Orem disguises himself too well. He doesn't seem like someone with any twisted or hidden intentions. Shawn said coldly, Actually, he is the most twisted of them all. Chapter 1902. I see it now, but Gale doesn't know yet, does she? Ivy was deeply worried. How should we tell her? She really wanted to let Gale see through Orem's true colors immediately, and not be deceived anymore. Orem could stoop to such despicable acts. It meant he had absolutely no moral bottom line. Who knew what unimaginable things he might do in the future? Shawn was also pondering over this issue. He said, We can't directly tell Gale, she won't believe it. Even if she does, it'll be with doubts. Her relationship with Orem runs deep. What should we do then? Just watch helplessly? Can't we do anything about it? Ivy asked anxiously. He took matters into his own hands and has tied up loose ends well. I will definitely expose Orem, but we can't rush this. It must be done slowly so as not to alert him. Shawn said firmly. I'm with you on this, Mr. Wood. Whatever you need me to do, just tell me. I'll stand by your side and try to expose Orem's true colors as soon as possible. I'll make Paul get what he deserves. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Ivy patiently waited for Shawn's response. She knew he had a plan, and she trusted that only he could deal with Orem. Though Ivy was in emotional turmoil, she managed to gather her composure. She continued, Orem seems to be trying to win me over recently. He's been very nice to me, even drove me home today. He would say some flirtatious things to me on purpose. I think he wants to have me, to be his woman, to use me. But he's mistaken. He thinks I'm someone who can throw everything away for love, but in fact I'm very clear-headed. Ivy was calm. She knew what needed to be done and what should not be done. Shawn's faint breaths came from the other end. Wind blew behind him. Finally he said, Ivy, since you've chosen to stand by me and Gale, I fully trust you. Mr. Wood, you and Gale are my benefactors and my patrons. I remember all the kindness you've shown me and all the help you've given me. I will never betray you, nor will I stoop to Orem's level. Ivy expressed her loyalty. Shawn also understood that she valued her integrity greatly, and being tainted by Paul was a lifelong pain for her. She hated Paul, and now she hated the mastermind behind him even more. Orem! He was not worried that Ivy would be swayed by Orem. What worried him was Ivy? Are you sure about this? You can stay out of it, ignore it all. I don't want to involve you. Just focus on your acting, I'll handle the rest, Shawn asked. He would expose Orem and deal with Paul. It was a matter of time for Shawn. By then Ivy would receive an explanation. She did not have to take risks, she just needed to wait for the outcome. I'm sure. Mr. Wood, I want to take revenge, Ivy gritted her teeth and replied. It's very dangerous. I'm not afraid, Shawn reminded her again. Orem is meticulous, vigilant. If he notices anything suspicious. I understand all that, Mr. Wood. I don't care. Revenge is the only thing that matters, no matter how difficult it is, I will do it, Ivy emphasized. All right. Seeing her determination, Shawn agreed directly. Then I won't beat around the bush. Ivy, you need to do 2 things. Chapter 1903, tell me, Mr. Wood, Ivy said. Shawn instructed. First, when Orem tries to seduce you, you'll go along with it, act as if you deeply love him. Acting is your forte, so I believe you can deceive him. If necessary, when he confesses his feelings for you and wants to be with you, agree. From now on, you and him will be entangled in a romantic relationship, portraying yourself as a woman deeply in love. Second, you need to talk to Gale. Ivy puzzled. Gale? But Mr. Wood, didn't you just say we shouldn't tell her for now because she wouldn't believe Orem is that kind of person? You're going to tell her that nothing happened between her and Orem. I said it, but she wouldn't believe it. You might get through to her, Shawn said lightly. Ivy slumped weakly onto the sofa. How do I tell her? I can't provide any evidence. Tell her that she's pure. You must be sincere and make her completely believe what you say. All right, I'll do my best. Leaning against the cold wall, she felt powerless, almost unable to hold onto her phone. It was sheer will for revenge that kept her going. Shawn noticed it too. Before hanging up, his tone softened considerably. You can contact me anytime. I'll assist you. If you don't want to continue, if you can't bear it anymore, you can tell me. I'll think of another way. Why would I not endure? I'll see it through to the end. I want to witness Orem and Paul's fate with my own eyes. I want to ruin them myself and watch them pay a painful price. Ivy chuckled softly. She could do it. It was just dealing with Orem, right? She had already tried today and succeeded. All day, Orem and her had been testing each other. Now, it was too late for Ivy to retreat. Orem had already set his sights on her. She could only move forward. All right, when you're with Orem, try to gather evidence. With evidence, we'll have the leverage to take him down. Shawn responded. I understand, Mr. Wood. After hanging up the phone, it was already late at night. Shawn suddenly wanted a smoke. But thinking that he would meet Gale and the kids later, he forcefully suppressed the urge. Unexpectedly, Ivy had inadvertently stumbled upon Orem and Paul's conversation, providing a breakthrough in this matter. With Ivy by Orem's side, the possibility of obtaining evidence was greater and easier. Heh, Shawn smirked. Orem wanted to compete with him? He dared to snatch Gale away from him? It was impossible. He would not allow it, let alone let Gale leave him. Orem had no chance of winning. Shawn was brimming with confidence. It was just a matter of time for him to find Orem's weakness and expose his ugliness. He worried about how Gale would react. Orem was her most trusted friend, the one who helped her the most but had become so unfamiliar in the end. She would be very upset. Chapter 1904. Gale being sad for a while is better than not seeing through Orem's true face for a lifetime. If Orem can repent and leave Sea City forever, I can give him a chance so you don't have to be hurt by the truth. Shawn muttered to himself. It all depends on what Orem will do. Will Orem fight to the end like Natalie used to? Or will he be a bit more sensible and retreat? Shawn left the study. There were occasional sounds of joy and laughter in the playroom. Gale was playing with the 2 children. Shawn walked in, and Nicole was the first to see him, sweetly calling out, Daddy! A baby girl's baby voice always comforts her father. What's Nicole playing? Shawn crouched down, patting her head. You're sweating. A game, Daddy, do you want to join? Gale said from the side. It's getting late, time to prepare for bath and bedtime. Daddy will play with you when he's free tomorrow. Nicole nodded obediently. Okay. Joshua was still sitting coolly beside, playing with a Rubik's Cube by himself. It was an advanced Rubik's Cube. He casually twisted it a few times, and the cube became neat and tidy. He could restore any Rubik's Cube to its original state within a minute. However, recently he was challenging himself to solve the Rubik's Cube within 30 seconds, yet he kept failing. Gale raised her voice. Joshua? Time to go back to the room. Joshua was too focused, he could not hear anyone calling him, and was murmuring numbers in his mouth, calculating time while his hands moved swiftly, piecing together each side of the cube. 29, 30, 31. 37. At 37 seconds the Rubik's Cube was solved. Ah, still 7 seconds short, Joshua sighed. You're already very fast, Joshua, much faster than me, Nicole praised. He snorted. You're so dumb, of course you are slower than me. Nicole turned her head. Mommy, Daddy, Joshua said I'm dumb. Joshua hurriedly coughed twice. I was joking with you. Why did Nicole always like to tell on him? She needed to change. We both have the same parents. You're smart, so I must be smart too. If I'm dumb, then you're dumb too, Nicole said proudly. Joshua retorted. Is there a possibility, Nicole, that I've inherited all the smart genes in our family, and you've inherited the idiot genes? You're the one with the idiot genes. Gale watched the two children bickering helplessly, smiling wryly. Meanwhile, Shawn walked over, picking up the Rubik's Cube. How many seconds are you trying? 30, Joshua said. Let me try. Shawn had not touched such a children's toy for a long time. The Rubik's Cube was a puzzle that exercises the logical faculties of the brain. Joshua was only 5 years old and could solve a Rubik's Cube so quickly, which was quite remarkable. Joshua timed Shawn's every move. 19, 20, 20 seconds. Just like that, Shawn solved it within 20 seconds. Joshua widened his eyes, unable to believe what he saw. That was so fast. Chapter 1905. Wait, I don't believe it. Let's start over. I have already almost finished a big part of it just now, so yours doesn't count. I'll scramble it again and you try to solve it. Joshua exclaimed. Shawn handed it to him. No matter how you scramble it, I can solve the Rubik's Cube in 20 seconds. 20 seconds? He was still trying to achieve 30 seconds and Shawn could already solve it in 20. That's impossible. Joshua could not accept this. He kept twisting the Rubik's Cube frantically, mixing up the colors thoroughly. He could not believe that Shawn could solve this one in 20 seconds. All right. Joshua handed him the Rubik's Cube, satisfied. Give it another try. Shawn took it calmly. Joshua counted beside him. 17, 18, 19. This time, Shawn completed a whole Rubik's Cube in 19 seconds. Joshua's face was filled with astonishment, and his gaze toward Shawn gradually turned into one of admiration. Shawn remained composed, putting the Rubik's Cube back in place. All right, go wash up and sleep, it's very late. Though he appeared calm on the surface, in reality, he enjoyed being admired by his son. He just could not show it. Impressive, impressive. Shawn, I've really underestimated you before, Joshua praised sincerely. This dad of his truly lived up to his reputation. In the past, whenever others praised his dad as formidable and imposing, Joshua had always been disdainful. He thought that Shawn was just average. Though he was somewhat formidable, he was not outstanding. Through this little Rubik's Cube incident, Joshua finally experienced Shawn's greatness. Shawn, you're so clever and intelligent, and I'm your son. I inherit your genes, so I should be as smart as you, or even smarter, right? Joshua suddenly asked. Theoretically, that could be the case. Then why am I still not as good as you? You're already very outstanding, Joshua, but I'm still a bit inferior compared to you. Shawn, were you able to solve the Rubik's Cube at this speed when you were 5? Joshua said. I've always been this fast, I only get quicker, never slower. Joshua clicked his tongue a couple of times, thought for a moment, and then glanced at Gale. There was a hint of disdain in his eyes. Gale caught on. What? Joshua, why are you looking at me like that? I just thought of something. What? Joshua hesitated a bit, unsure whether he should say it or not. Forget it, girls are sensitive. I better not say so you won't get mad later. Look at Nicole. She always tattles on me for every little thing. You can tell me. I won't get angry, Gale replied, smiling slightly. She had not provoked him. What could he possibly say to make her angry? Are you sure? Then I'll say it, Joshua asked. Go ahead. Gale smiled gently, looking every bit the kind mother she was. All Joshua did was purse his lips. Shawn is too clever, and I haven't inherited all of his intelligence. It must be you dragging me down. He's smart, you're not, it balances out, and then I end up not being smart but not stupid either. Chapter 1906. After a 2-second pause, Joshua added, Nicole is not very bright, she must have completely inherited her intelligence from you. Luckily, I managed to inherit a tiny bit of Shawn's genes. Nicole was randomly insulted. Gale was speechless. No matter how old men were, they would be so good at provoking women. Shawn wanted to laugh a bit, but he tried hard to hold back, so his lips twitched. Joshua realized the room was silent and sensed something was off. I'll go back to my room now. Good night, Shawn, Mommy, Sister. Joshua dashed toward the door. The culprit fled. Gale and Nicole looked at each other. Joshua deserves a beating. Mommy, why don't you spank him? Nicole said. Should I go drag him back and give him a spanking? Can I get to him in time? They heard a slam almost immediately. He had closed his room door and even deliberately locked it. Gale looked at her very seriously. Nicole, see that? That's a man for you? Arrogant, conceited, and always talented at angering women. In the future, never find a husband with such a personality. Nicole looked at her blankly. Shawn interjected. Gale, isn't it a bit early to tell Nicole all this? You have to start from childhood. Don't you understand? No one taught you to respect and protect girls when you were young, so you became indifferent and romantically insensitive, Gale said. Shawn fell silent. Gale was in a rage now, and he could not provoke her. It was his son who provoked her. And he had not done anything wrong. He was in the line of fire just because he and his son shared the same gender. Come, Nicole, Mommy will take you back to your room and tell you a story to sleep. Gale picked up Nicole. Good night. After tucking Nicole in, Gale returned to the master bedroom. Shawn was already half lying on the bed, reading a book. You haven't slept yet? Are you waiting for me? Gale asked. Of course I'm waiting for you. You've been in the study all night? Is work very busy? Shawn responded faintly with a hum. Gale did not ask further. After washing up and changing into her pajamas, she lay down beside him. He reached out and pulled her into his arms just like usual. Shawn's hand gradually became restless. Gale, is it okay? She was startled, and her body involuntarily stiffened. Shawn patiently waited for her response, breathing gently, restraining his own desires. After learning that Orem indeed had not touched her, Shawn wanted to consume and possess her even more. He had only suspected that Orem had not succeeded, but after hearing everything from Ivy, both he and Ivy concluded that Orem had not succeeded. If Orem had really had sex with Gale, he would not react that way when answering Paul's questions. Shawn was joyful and content. It was not just because Gale remained as pure as ever, but also because she did not have to feel inferior or resist his intimacy anymore. Shawn, give me a little more time, Gale softly said. Chapter 1907. His body stiffened. Shawn sighed slowly. She still had not come out of it, even though on the surface, that night's incident had long passed and no one would bring it up again. It was still deeply etched in her heart. How much longer? Shawn asked. Gaily, it's not that I want to have sex. It's just that I want you to completely let go of your demons and accept me again. I'm sorry, it was clearly my fault. I have been punishing you for my mistake. Gale's body trembled lightly, unable to face him. She knew it was not good to be like this, but she could not control it. Shawn tightened his arms around her. Don't apologize, you did nothing wrong. He kissed her forehead, helped her put on her nightgown, and did not make any further moves. It was silent. Gale never turned around, always facing away from Shawn. They looked like they enjoyed a harmonious and peaceful day, but in reality, it was a day filled with much hidden turmoil. When would it end? Shawn was so good, yet she was so impure. She felt extremely inferior to him. Gale did not sleep well that night. Every time she opened her eyes and found that it was not yet dawn, she could only force herself to sleep again. Such poor sleep quality directly affected her when she went to work. Her mental state was not good. Sitting in front of the computer looking at the design drafts, she had no inspiration. She decided to go out and buy a cup of coffee and take a walk. Walking out of Wood Group, Gale stood on the sidewalk waiting for the green light. Suddenly, a car stopped in front of her. She took 2 steps back to avoid it. The car window rolled down, it revealed Ivy's face. Gale! It's you, Gale smiled. Passing by, what a coincidence? No, I came to see you. Are you free? Let's have a coffee together. I was just about to go to the cafe. In the cafe, the smell of coffee wafted through the air. Ivy was still without makeup. In Gale's memory, whenever she met Ivy privately, Ivy was basically without makeup. That was the confidence only a beautiful woman has. Gale, I don't have much time, I have to go to the film crew later. The movie is about to start filming, and I have to go for fittings. Most of my time will be spent on the set from now on, Ivy said. This also meant that she would be dealing with Paul every day. Gale felt a little heartache and said softly, Ivy, it will pass, it will. Will it? She could not even convince herself with those words. She did not know when she could accept Shawn's touch, or when she could let go of the grudge in her heart. Perhaps, she could never do it in this lifetime. I can't get over it. Ivy shook her head. But Gale, you can, because you are completely innocent. Gale was taken aback. She had only heard this from Shawn. He unconditionally believed her, stood by her side, but she took it as him consoling himself. Now? Ivy said the same thing. Ivy leaned forward, looking at her with unwavering determination. Gale, truly, trust me. I can't present any strong evidence right now to prove that you and Orem are innocent, but I can assure you that night, nothing happened between you and Orem. You just lay on the bed together. Chapter 1908. Gale, you don't have to feel inferior. You don't need to think you've let Mr. Wood down or sink into self-loathing. Your situation and mine aren't the same. I've already pulled myself together and thrown myself into work. You shouldn't get caught up in that nightmare from that night. Honestly, you shouldn't because you didn't experience that nightmare. Gale almost forgot to blink, just staring at Ivy like that. Gale saw her reflection in Ivy's clear gaze. Ivy, you. Gale felt a bit lost. Why are you so sure? Do you know something? Do you have any leads? Not at the moment, but I just know. A tinge of disappointment flickered in Gale's eyes. Ivy was trying to comfort her, was she not? Without evidence, how could she believe her? Gale! Ivy could tell what Gale was thinking. Don't you believe me? Gale wanted to believe, but she could not convince herself. Gale, I can vouch for it with my career, my future, even my life. Ivy looked straight into her eyes. Nothing happened between you and Orem that night. Well, to be accurate, there was no chance it could happen. Really truly, you two just lay there. Gale, not once did it happen. Oman just wanted to make you think you lost your innocence. Ivy spoke with utmost sincerity, shaking Gale's inner doubts. She asked, Ivy, what did you see these few days? How did you get this information? That night, Ivy was also a victim, in the room next door with Paul. Ivy was violated by Paul, but Gale, could she really be so lucky to escape? Exactly. Ivy nodded. I accidentally got the information, but I can't tell you. Gale, just believe me. Gale's eyes lit up. You can say it, speak up. With me, with Shawn here, he'll back you up. He won't let you get into trouble. Ivy, I trust you, and you can trust us. She was too eager to know the answer. Ivy hesitated. Should she mention Orem's name? Seeing her hesitation, Gale wanted to ask more, but suddenly footsteps approached from behind, getting closer. Gale, Ivy. What a coincidence bumping into you two again, Orem said. Under the table, Ivy's hand instantly clenched, her nails digging into her flesh. But on her face, Ivy maintained a smile, showing no sign of abnormality or flaw. Orem's gaze lightly swept across her face. He seemed unconcerned, but in reality, he was secretly assessing her. Indeed, what a coincidence. How did you end up in this cafe? Ivy smiled. Gale and I just sat down, haven't even talked much yet. Gale nodded as well. Yeah, it seems we always run into each other. The last time they met was in the restaurant, and right after, nearly ruined her marriage and her life. Thinking of this made her heart ache. Orem and Ivy knew what she was thinking, and they remained silent. Gale wondered why it was repeating itself. Orem always appeared wherever she and Ivy were. Was it really a coincidence, or was it deliberately arranged? However, Orem was so busy with work. He should not be tracking her or Ivy, right? He was not that kind of person at all. Chapter 1909. I'm going to a meeting and was just passing by, thought I'd grab a coffee and go. My car's parked on the roadside, lights are still on. Orem broke the silence. He gestured casually and then smiled, heading to the counter to place his order. Ivy watched Orem's figure. He was imposing and gentlemanly, that was the impression Orem gives to others, but deep down, he was so vile and dark. Gale glanced out the window. She saw his car by the roadside. She did not want to see Orem because she could not face it. As soon as she saw him, she would involuntarily think of that night. Everyone could pretend like nothing had happened, but the fact remained undeniable. Gale, remember my words, I have a secret that's hard to tell. Ivy's hand landed on the back of her hand, gripping it tightly. I can't say more, but you'll know in the future. Gale looked at her quietly. What secret did Ivy know, that she could confidently assure her that nothing happened between her and Orem? Why could not Ivy speak? Why wait until later? This is something I dragged you into. That person was after me. You're innocent. I've always wanted to keep you away, but now it seems like you can't escape. Ivy replied. Gale, I want revenge. She had lost her virginity to a rape. She wanted Paul to pay the price. She wanted Orem to lose his status in Sea City. Gale saw the determination in Ivy's eyes. Ivy stood up. Coincidentally, Orem also bought his coffee. Since it's so coincidental, Orem, could I catch a ride with you? I need to go to the set for makeup and finalize my look. Ivy smiled flirtatiously, looking very charming. Orem also smiled. Even if it's not on the way, I'll take you. Serving a goddess is my honor. It's my honor to ride in your car. Didn't you ride in it just last night? Ivy put on a look of sudden realization. Oh right, I completely forgot. Since I met you it seems like I've always hitched a ride with you. It's fate. Orem smiled gently. Indeed, some things may have been arranged by destiny. I remember the first time I met you, I rode in your car because my car broke down and could not start. Gale's gaze shifted between the two, back and forth. She was a bit confused. The interaction and conversation between these two were a little ambiguous. It was clearly more than friendship but not quite lovers yet. Who would have thought that after what happened at the hotel, Orem and Ivy could still continue their previous relationship? Was not Orem bothered? Did he not care? Was Ivy willing to open her heart and take this step? Gale could not understand. Gale, Orem and I are leaving now, bye, Ivy called her, interrupting her thoughts. Goodbye. Orem also nodded at her, smiled, and walked out of the cafe side by side with Ivy. He was as gentlemanly as ever. When walking in front he would actively open the door for Ivy, and even when getting into the car he would open the passenger's door for her. He was thoughtful, and meticulous as always. Chapter 1910. Ivy did not refuse, and from her expression and behavior she seemed to enjoy and be quite satisfied with Orem's care for her. Orem was indeed trying to flirt with her. He wanted to lure her with love. He even wanted to completely control her, make her obediently listen to him, love him deeply, and be willing to sacrifice herself for her love. After all, Orem seemed to be a quality man. Any woman who looked at him would want to have him. Ivy had once been attracted to him too. Now thinking about it, she felt that she was truly naive and innocent. A man who could harm the woman he loved should be kept as far away as possible. She played along. If Orem was playing, she would play too. She was keen to see if he's a better actor, or if she, a professionally trained actress, can outperform him. He could act affectionately. Then in response, she would play the role of a devoted woman. Watching the car drive away, Gale still had not snapped out of her daze. She could not understand it. Paul raped Ivy, Orem was Paul's main investor, and Orem slept with Gale, yet it looked like Orem and Ivy might be a couple? They might have feelings for each other. This was too messy. Gale was pondering all the way back to the office. If Orem and Ivy could be together, it would definitely be for the best. Ivy was a good girl, a big star, fair-skinned, beautiful, had a great figure, and had a good personality and values. Orem was also a rare quality man, with a good temper, gentle, well-educated, successful and respectful towards women. They could be said to be a match made in heaven. It was perfect. The only grievance was that Ivy encountered Paul's wandering hands. If these two could put aside and forget about this incident and still be mutually attracted, it would be a great thing. The elevator door opened, and Gale was about to step out, but when she saw the scene outside, she was stunned. Huh? Is this not the jewelry department? Madam? Fiona saw her and immediately greeted her warmly. You're here, please come in. Fiona pressed the elevator button and respectfully invited her in. Gale just realized that she had been too focused on her thoughts just now. She had actually taken the wrong elevator and ended up in Shawn's exclusive elevator straight to his office. Since she was already here, she thought of giving Shawn a visit. She was not busy today. Madam, Mr. Wood is in the office, you can just go in, Fiona reminded her. Gale looked at her. You seem eager for me to go see Shawn. Is he in a bad mood again and causing trouble for you all? Hey, Madam understands well. Fiona glanced around and then lowered his voice. The director of the marketing department just got scolded badly and left. At the moment, no one dares to enter his office. Only you can calm Mr. Wood's anger. Gale nodded and pushed the door open. I told you not to come. Gale? Shawn's voice, full of anger, softened instantly. He looked up at her. Why is it you?